You thought it was one pathetic boy's life you were extinguishing. Thanks to you, I die, like Jesus Christ, to inspire generations of the weak and the defenseless people.
This year marks the 10-year anniversary of the Virginia Tech shooting, which left 32 people dead and 17 wounded. The incident remains the deadliest school shooting in U.S. history. Roxy Z is at the Virginia Tech campus reporting live on this report. Thank you, Ladan. I'm standing in front of a building that 10 years ago this month witnessed a state of panic and indescribable tragedy. On April 16, 2007, Sung Hoi Cho, a 23-year-old Virginia Tech senior, entered campus armed with 2 semi-automatic handguns and nearly 400 rounds of ammunition and began shooting students and faculty. After the 10-minute rampage, he killed himself. Cho was a South Korean citizen, a U.S. permanent resident with a history of mental disorders. In fact, 2 years before the shooting, a Virginia court had declared him mentally ill. The Virginia Tech shooting not only reawakened the debate on gun violence and led to significant changes in gun laws, but it also spurred changes in campus safety, including campus-wide emergency notifications and threat assessment teams that are the norm on college campuses today. Cho first made contact with the university's counseling center on campus on November 30th of 2005 when he was referred by a professor. In the records from his initial telephone conversation, another counselor checked off troubled further contact within 2 weeks, under the portion of the form that rates the severity of the patient's disposition. An in-person appointment was scheduled for Cho on December 12th of 2005, but when he failed to show up, another telephone consultation took place. According to the documents, Cho indicated in the second phone conversation that his symptoms of depression and anxiety had persisted. He also said that he was having trouble concentrating. That counselor's notes indicate that despite his symptoms, Cho said that he did not want to come in at this time. Just 2 weeks after the shootings, Virginia Governor Timothy Kane signed an executive order that required anyone court-ordered to receive mental health treatment be added to a state database of people prohibited from buying guns. A year after the shooting, Senator Jim Webb introduced legislation that would amend the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which determines how much of a student's mental health records can be disclosed by a university. Webb argued that the Virginia Tech massacre may have been prevented had the policy been more clear on when information about a mentally ill student can be shared by a university. The Virginia Tech shooting was an unforgettable ordeal that may or may not have been able to be prevented. However, 10 years later, the goal is that lessons have been learned or interventions developed by public educators and mental health professionals as a result of the crisis. Reporting live from Blacksburg, Virginia, I'm Roxy Z. Back to you, Ladan. Thank you, Roxy. After the shooting, it was reported that Cho had been diagnosed and had received treatments as a young adult for an anxiety disorder. There's 20 pages to Cho's troubled history. At 3 years of age, he was described as shy, frail, and wary of physical contact. In 8th grade, he was diagnosed with severe depression as well as selective mutism. Reports by South Korean relatives say that he may have had autism. He was bullied for speech difficulties in middle school, bullied for his height as well as his race in high school. When he applied and was admitted to Virginia Tech, school officials did not report his speech and anxiety-related problems or his special education status because of federal privacy laws that prohibit such disclosure unless a student requests special accommodations. Cho's junior year of college, he exhibited disturbing behavior for stalking and harassing 2 female students, and he was also ordered to seek outpatient treatment. Failing to share information that would have shed light on the seriousness of Cho's problems is a failure by Virginia Tech's counseling center, flaws in Virginia's mental health laws, and inadequate state mental health services. 4 months after the shootings, Governor Kane released a report that harshly criticized the university for its handling of the incident, primarily in the failure to notify students promptly about the shootings, as well as the failure to notice warning signs that he says may have prevented the incident altogether. University officials have cited privacy laws as the reason they did not exchange information on Cho's mental history or contact his parents about problems he was having on campus. Joining us today is Dr. John Heil, lead author of Psychological Interventions with the Virginia Tech Shootings, Lessons Learned and Recommendations for the Hospital Setting. Dr. Howell, one important lesson learned from the Virginia Tech shooting was more timely campus warnings of danger or shootings or whatever may be the case, right?
Yes, Lotta, and the Department of Education actually fined the university $55,000 on March 29, 2011 for waiting too long to notify students of the initial shootings. It did get overturned a year later. However, on March 14, 2012, a jury found that Virginia Tech was guilty of negligence for delaying a campus warning. The parents of two students who were killed filed a wrongful death civil lawsuit that argued that lives could have been spared if school officials had moved more quickly to alert the campus after the first two victims were shot in the dorm. Also following the 2017 shootings, Virginia Tech began employing an alert system on their website and text messages to warn students of—
You know, in times of mass chaos, it makes perfect sense that prompt, accurate information can mean everything.
Yes, absolutely. The desire and need for information during crisis is profound. To be able to provide information in a sensible way, you are ultimately providing support and guidance and helping the victims cope with their trauma.
And another crucial factor after something like this is to have on hand a team of crisis counselors to try and help the victims cope with such a tragedy.
Absolutely. It's very important to provide aid to the victims and indirect victims who have just experienced something so tragic, and try to create for them a place of sanctuary. You know, that was a time where so many people were distraught and in need of guidance and support and ultimately security. Because the Virginia Tech Counseling Center was on campus, it was closed, so we segregated a section of the hospital to offer counseling services and a place of sanctuary, but for providing aid and comfort to those in need.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to speak with us, Dr. Howell. Prompt information and counseling services. Those are the top two of your lessons learned in your study of the Virginia Tech shooting. To read more of Dr. Howell's full analysis, you can visit the website psychealthroanoke.com. And coming up next, a bobcat and a dog, an unlikely pair of best friends.